I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. This is the Beyond the Mouse podcast, the podcast for all things Disney for NPR Illinois Community Voices and for the Front Row Network. I'm your host today, Craig, joined by my co-host, Ms. Vanessa Ferguson.
Well, hello, Mr. Craig McFarland.
And Mr. Brett Rutherford.
Well, hello there. It's good to be here.
We are so excited today because this is a returning Disney legend. We had the chance to talk to Jodi Benson a couple of years ago, and she was really one of the first people that allowed us an interview. We really dove into various aspects of her career. The documentary Howard had just come out, so we talked a lot about her relationship with Howard Ashman. And now it's great that the filmmaker of that documentary, Don Hahn, is now being recognized as a Disney legend as well. We're certainly going to talk to her about the Legends Award in this upcoming interview, but I'm just so excited to get a chance to talk to her again today. She's an Illinois native. She's our own. She's from Rockford, went to school in Decatur at Millikan. But Brett, talk to me about your excitement to talk to Jodi Benson.
Well, I mean, when do you have the opportunity to talk to Jodi Benson? Well, this is our second one, so that's amazing. But I loved her book, and it meant so much for me at, some times when I was, having a little bit of a hard time, and it was just a wonderful inspiration. So I can't wait to talk to her about that and also let her know that her book meant a lot to me.
Absolutely. So we are talking to her today about her book, Part of My World, and that's going to be released on September 13th. So you can find that at independent bookstores. Of course, you can also get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you'd like. But Vanessa, talk to me about Jodi Benson.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to her again. It's fun because we follow a lot of Disney groups on Facebook, and it's so fun when fans will get to meet her and then they talk about it online, and every story that they tell is consistent. She's very kind. She gave them her time. Like, she actually looked them in the eye and talked to them. And it's so great because it's like, well, everyone's having that wonderful experience that we've been lucky enough to have and will have again for the second time today, which is so exciting. And again, that book, I love this book. There are so many great moments and inspirational messages, and it's fun to see her be like us. Like, she's one of us. Like, she's human. She goes through struggles just like we all do, and it's a really, really great book. So I'm really excited to talk to her about it today.
Yes, and I don't want to stay in the way of this interview any longer. So here is our chat with Jodi Benson, Disney legend Jodi Benson. It is such an honor to bring back to the show Jodi Benson, Disney legend Jodi Benson. How are you today, Jodi?
I'm doing really great, and I appreciate you having me back on your show with all of you. Hello to all my friends in Illinois.
Absolutely. Of course, you're an Illinois native, born in Rockford. And we had so many people when we mentioned we had a chance to chat with you again. Everyone's like, hey, she went to Millikan. So right next door to us. So we're so glad to have you on. And I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed your book. And I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable in that book. I really enjoy that people are open and you share some of the struggles that you had, as well as the joys that you had. And throughout the difficulties you faced through that, you had that line of positivity that you kind of exude as a person. And Paige O'Hara actually mentions your positivity as well. Can you share with us your perspective on staying positive and extending grace to others?
Yeah, well, first of all, I never wanted to write a book in a million years. So I just need to be boldly honest with you about that. But after several months of pursuing me, Tyndale Publishing and my brother, who's an author, basically said, okay, if you share 24 little vignettes, not an autobiography, not a memoir, and they're thank you letters and love letters to the people along your journey, Howard Ashman, to Disney, to my voice teacher at Millikan. And if one person picked up the book and read one little story and felt encouraged, would it be worth it? And I said, okay, for that, I will go through this pain, because it was really, really hard to do this book, really hard. So positivity, you know what? You can ask my husband. I am not positive all the time. In fact, I got up this morning at 6:30 a.m. and I sat in front of him while he was having his cup of coffee, and I just whined for about 5 minutes. I just whined, I'm tired. I just don't feel like being on camera all day long. I just feel old, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, would you like some cheese with that wine? And I'm like, yeah. So then he's like, do you feel better? I'm like, yep, I'm going to go get my coffee and get started for my day. So realistically, no, I am not positive 24/7, but throughout some of the journeys and the adventures and the ups and the downs and everything mixed in between, the foundation of who I am as a person, and this is not a Christian book by any means, but obviously within my stories, I kind of get down to rock solid foundation as faith. I know that I'm not the be all end all, that definitely there's something greater than me. Thank you, God, that there is, because that would be a wreck if I were in charge. So I think what comes through in these stories is that you'll see that foundation of just who I am. I've been a person of faith since I was a little girl, and it wasn't necessarily affiliated with a church or an organization, but I had a really deep connection to God as a little kid. And I used to talk out loud, and I really felt like I was being heard, and just had this kind of a relationship ever since I was a kid.
That's so great. And we really just appreciate that kindness that you have as well. And I'm sure we're going to get into that. But Vanessa, you had the next question.
Yeah, well, Jodi, I know you mentioned that you didn't want to write this book, but I have to be honest with you. There are so many notes that I made in the book, which at first I just started underlining things, and then there'd be like this really wonderful message that just really hit home. And I just have all these hearts where I would just heart the message throughout my book. So, I mean, was that something that you knew you were going to do when you were writing the book? Because there are so many little profound nuggets of wisdom that I think readers can really apply to their own lives.
Well, first of all, that's super sweet that you say that. No, what I did with this book, and it was intentional, was I just recorded my voice for hours and hours and hours with Carol, my writer. And then Tyndale just transcribed it. And then we kind of reorganized the stories. We had about 65 stories, and then we narrowed it down to about 24, 25. And so there's not really a lot of editing. It was really just me talking off the cuff with no plan. She would just pop out a question, and then for the next 4 hours, I'd just start to talk. And so we did these sessions day after day after day of 4-hour sessions. And the poor transcriber, I'm sure he or she got sick of that, but it's not written. It's just me chatting. And what you probably hear coming out of me is what was poured into me by these people along my journey. And I'm just repeating it, sharing it, passing it on, because it made such an impact in me. In fact, I was just sharing with my daughter a couple of days ago something that had been poured into me as a young performer. She's a musical theater major her senior year at CCM in Cincinnati. And I found myself just blurting out something that was embedded deep down in here, because I'm old, that had been given to me from somebody else. So I think that's kind of what I am. I kind of see myself as a conduit, sort of like a little pipe that has open ends. And I'm just that little piece in the middle. I don't think great wisdom comes from me, nor necessarily pours out of me. I do think I'm a conduit, though, of what people have poured into me, and a vessel to just let it roll out.
That's so great. Now I'm ready to hit the subscribe button on Jodi Benson's podcast if you want to just continue those stories.
Stop. No.
Brett, you're up.
Well, I've got to tell you that when I found out that you were writing a book, I thought to myself, this will be the perfect combination of Illinois hometown and college life stories and stories from life on the Broadway and wonderful Disney stories. So it's like everything I love. So you had me at the get-go. Now, the first time I read your book, Part of My World, I was in the hospital waiting room waiting for my dad's hip replacement surgery. And I honestly, I really have to tell you, it was a real blessing of faith, as this past month has been. Well, we've had some medical life challenges for both my father and for me as well. So I thought of your book often, and it's given me a great amount of comfort, really. So thank you.
Well,
so
again, that's encouraging to me to know that whatever was poured into me, and I kind of pour out into this book, that you're that person, the person that picked it up at the right time and place,
right?
And read some little thing that kind of went, oh wow, that kind of helps me in my little rough moment.
It really did.
So
it really did.
That's
Thank
a blessing.
you. Thank you. As we've mentioned, faith is such an important part of your life. I really recommend this book to anyone who has a need for a pick-me-up or a message that everything is going to work out as it should. But one of the messages that you had for readers that I circled in the book is when God gives you a gift, he's going to give you a way to use it. And so could you talk to our listeners about using those gifts that you were given?
Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday, I was just reading something on a news article that was on Instagram, because I have to do that for work. So I have to kind of go through messages and clean things up. But I'm not a big social media person. It's not really my cup of tea. But there was somebody sharing something that I exactly went, yes, that is exactly what I was trying to communicate. Basically, God gives you natural gifts, whatever those are. And our job is to figure out what those are. We can't want somebody else's gifts. We can't be in this American Idol thing that I want. Everybody's got to be a singer. Everybody's got to be famous. Everybody's got to make a lot of money, and be on national television and sing when they're tone deaf or they can't sing. You can't learn how to sing. You have to have the natural gifting of being able to sing. And then, of course, you can coach and train and grow and expand. But you cannot, people ask me all the time, can you teach my child to sing? And I'm like, can they match pitch? No, not really. No, you can't. I'm sorry. It's just, it's a gift. So you have to figure out what that natural gifting is. And you can't want somebody else's. You got to figure out what it is for you. Then you take that sweet spot, and that's where God comes in, because when he gives us a gift and wants us to share it, that's the other thing. Well, I only want to share my gift like this, or here, or I only want to get paid for my gift, or I only want to, I only. Well, you start getting a little messed up there, because it is a gift and we do want to share it. But we need to be open and think outside of the box. Because I tell you, I can sing in front of 18,000 people at the Hollywood Bowl. I can sing in front of the Tokyo Philharmonic, with this amazing world-class orchestra. Or I could sing, on the screen here in my little studio for a patient in a children's hospital. Mm-hmm. Just she and me together, just the two of us. And it can be so fulfilling and so rewarding. So again, I have a gift, but I don't necessarily have to choose how that gift is going to be shared. And that's where I think we have to get thinking outside of the little box. I got to make a lot of money and I got to be famous. That was never my thing. When I was 8 years old, I told my mom, I want to sing, dance, and act. I would like to get a paycheck. I would like to be able to pay my bills, period. Because I knew I had a gift set and I wanted to share it. But where it was going to be shared and how it was going to be shared, I didn't put that limitation on it.
And speaking of sharing that gift, you have been so generous to us in allowing us now to speak to you for a second time, this little podcast from Illinois. And someone else that also gave us that generous gift right away was Kevin Lima. And so I don't want to spoil some of the behind the scenes that you give, great behind the scenes looks at your career that are in this book. But I'm wondering if you had something from your time on the set of Enchanted or anywhere else that you would have worked with Kevin in particular that you'd like to share with us now.
Right. Well, Kevin and I are friends. He was one of our animators for The Little Mermaid originally. Mm-hmm. So when he was selected to direct Enchanted as the feature film director, it was huge for him as an animator to be able to do live action and direct. So it was really just a joke. It was supposed to be the three of us princesses. It was Judy, Paige, and myself that really you weren't supposed to recognize us. It was an Easter egg and you were supposed to find us. So my little thing started out to be where I was just going to walk past the fish tank where they play Part of Your World in a Muzak format. But then it turned into, well, now she has a name. Her name is Sam. And now she's got some lines. And I was like, oh, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And because I'm half Italian, I talk with my hands all the time. So I'm doing the scene and Kevin's like, okay, so I said, Kevin, I've never done a movie before. And I haven't done TV since probably the early 80s. I don't know anything. So just teach me. And Patrick Dempsey was so sweet. And he taught me too, like, here's where the camera is. And when this red light goes off, this is what. And so I'm talking like this. And then Kevin comes over and goes, Jodi, your hand is in front of the camera. I said, well, there's 6 cameras. I don't know. Like, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm talking to him and I'm talking to her and I'm looking at the fish. And he goes, well, when the red light flashes, that's the one, don't put your hand in front of. Well, I was like, well, that's complicated because now I have to go back and forth like this, waiting for the red light and then make sure my hand, it was so comical. Oh my gosh. I mean, all I kept doing was saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. But I had a blast and Patrick and I had fun. And then they created a second scene. So they called me up. They're like, well, we're sending you out to LA. You've got another scene. I'm like, what? Why? Why are you inviting me back? That's so frightening. So he had me come back and do another scene, and it incorporated props. Oh my gosh, so many props. I had to put Patrick's jacket on. I had to hand him papers, and I had to hand him his briefcase, and then I had to hand him this big old umbrella. I'm like, what are you doing to me? I can barely talk and walk at the same time. Oh my gosh, but it was so much fun. I had a blast. It was a one and done. That's not happening again, I'm sure. So, but it was a lot of fun.
It is so fun to hear like how you react to this moment on set, the way we might react to it as well. And I think that's one thing that I really loved about your book is that we're getting to see Jodi Benson, not the Little Mermaid, but Jodi Benson, the actual person. My co-hosts here, they like to make fun of me because I once asked Alan Menken what he was having for dinner. It was chicken, by the way, in case you're wondering. But I think it's fun to get to see the human side of people and how they act just like us. And so I just wanted to ask you, was it important to you to kind of really show those real human-like experiences, those real struggles that you had that you talked about in the book?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't want it to be an autobiography, a tell-all, a dish fest, a memoir. I did want it to be a thank you letter. And so I was conscious about making sure that the stories that I were sharing, this was my goal. Whoever picked up the book, I didn't want anyone to feel excluded, and I didn't want anyone to have their feelings hurt. So those two things were really important to me. And that was in the back of my mind as I was talking.
Yeah. But I have to point to another moment of the book too, because like when you go to New York and you are in a very tiny apartment, it's like, see, even Jodi Benson starts off in a tiny apartment in New York. It's so great.
Yeah, I started out on sofa surfing, and got my first job 10 days after moving to New York with $100 and slept on a sofa, and then went on the national tour of Joseph and got my equity card, which is just freakish to do that on the 10th day. But then after the tour, I crashed at my friend who was on tour with me, Jessica. I crashed in her little office, which was like a 6x6 on a, not on a mattress, sort of like a sleeping bag kind of thing. And I woke up one day and my face was bitten by cockroaches.
Oh no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
My
real
eye
life.
was swollen shut. Yeah. So, hey, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Attacked by cockroaches. Go figure. But you know what? It's a story. It's a story.
Sure it is. Yes.
Absolutely.
A real story, and it happened. And
Wow.
so I can pass that on to say, you know what? Been there, done that. I know what that's like to live in a little square. I know what that's like to be attacked by cockroaches in the middle of the night, sleeping on the floor.
Wow.
So you just do what you got to do. But
Sure.
it never fazed me. It never fazed me because I knew I had this set of gifts that I wanted to share. And I didn't really care that everything had to be perfect. It was just like, I'm just going to share this and let's see what happens. Let's just go for it. What have I got to lose? So, walking in a blizzard 4.5 blocks with quarters to do your laundry was no big deal for me. it's a big deal now if I think about like, wow, what the heck? I did some crazy stuff at 18, 19, and 20. You know, in a blizzard, carrying your laundry with your quarters, it just didn't faze me. I got to have clean laundry. So we're going to make this work. It's crazy. You know, you kind of look back and go, wow, I had a lot of gumption.
It's the Midwestern gumption, you know. It's the Midwestern thing, you know. I mean, it could be another coast thing, but it's definitely Midwestern. So
I mean, I didn't
kudos.
think any big deal of it. It wasn't like I went, oh my gosh, I gotta walk 4 blocks in the blizzard to do my laundry. Oh, I wish I had a better life. That never crossed my mind.
No.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna get some clean laundry. This is a good day.
That's
So,
great.
I
Walk
don't
in
know.
the snow in New York. That's kind of dreamy, you know, in some way. You know, if Jodi, when people talk about Howard Ashman, they always mention his creative genius, but you have just the sweetest story about him, and it really gives us insight into who he was as a person. There was a moment in the book where you're struggling at an audition, and he breaks his own rule to help you in that difficult moment. Can you share that story with our listeners, or do you want to keep it for the book? Just a little bit of
No,
it.
no,
How's that?
yeah, I love the story because it's real, and the only people that know the story are me and Howard's partner, Bill. And so, yes, Howard broke professional protocol in an audition for a Broadway show, Smile. And after I think it was 4 callbacks, I was really struggling. And he pulled me out of the audition in the middle of the audition, and I just broke down crying, knowing that I was being cut. You know, thank you so much, and we're gonna let you go. And he said, I'm gonna do something. You know, he just said, I have to tell you, you have the part. You already have the part. And I just switched from thinking I was getting cut to, oh my gosh, I'm gonna create this starring role on Broadway. And he goes, I just couldn't watch you go through this anymore. It was unbearable.
Wow.
I just couldn't do it to you anymore. So now I want you to dry your tears, and I want you to go back in there, and you're going to have to keep this between us. You can't tell anyone. And I said, yes, sir. And went back in. And he went home that night to his partner, and he told Bill. And Bill and I shared the story with each other. I'm like, Bill, did he ever tell you what he did? He goes, yes, Jodi. He walked right in the door and just said, I can't, you know, how was work today? And he's like, I did the unthinkable. I did the wrong thing that no one should ever do, not only as a director and a lyricist and executive producer, but I broke protocol. And then he told him the story. And, you know, that just shows who Howard was. He was very empathetic. And because he was so brilliant and 20 years ahead of all of us with his brain, and always 10 steps ahead of us, people assumed he was aloof, or people assumed that he was scary. I felt he was scary when I went to the auditions for Smile, because he sat there like this, just kind of whispering and talking, writing, looking. It was kind of scary, like, you know, not particularly friendly. Like, hey, how are you? You know, like my personality was like, come on in. What are you going to share? What are you going to do? Okay. Yeah. Always like, and so he's kind of, you feel like he's aloof, unapproachable, and then boom, he does something like that. And so that was the side of Howard that I was able to see, because I'm so blessed and fortunate that I, not only he was my director on a Broadway musical with Smile, that I worked with him for 3 or 4 years, but then we went right into Mermaid for another 2.5 years. So I'm one of the few people that have worked with him twice. And so by the time we did Mermaid, we were friends and we knew each other, but he was still my director, and he was still the person I looked up to. So yeah, it was really amazing. It was wonderful to be able to share that so that people could see that other side of him that I saw.
Yeah, it kind of took your breath away when you read that in the book. Yeah,
Oh.
and your book is so conversational. It's so interesting to say that it was a conversation, but
It was
just,
yeah.
I love that part of it so much. So,
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's sweet.
So, Jodi, I'm going to be meeting Faith Prince next month, and I was really excited to read about her in your book. And you're just so gracious when you talk about the Tony Awards and when you were nominated, and Faith was nominated. And I was just wondering if you could kind of give us maybe any behind the scenes moments from that Tony Awards. I mean, did you get to congratulate your fellow nominees? Did you get to hang out?
Yeah. Once the nominations come out, you have a month where you do a bunch of stuff together. And you do the Tony brunch together, and you get to meet each other. Of course, I looked up to Faith. She was and is a Broadway icon, to me. And even though we're kind of in the same age bracket, give or take, I always looked up to her. I mean, she was just and is phenomenal, brilliant. And I was able to see her as Adelaide. I mean, show-stopping performance. So it was wonderful. Like I said, I didn't expect to be nominated, because the category was going to be really filled up. And sometimes they do 4, sometimes they do 5, sometimes they do 6. And so I didn't think I was in that top group, which was totally fine, because I was, was kind of a newcomer. And I had only done a handful of Broadway shows that were all flops. So I wasn't, really known kind of in the Broadway community. Of course, I had done Mermaid by then, but that didn't translate at all for Broadway or New York at that point. Which is totally fine. So I was so shocked to be nominated. And the fun thing is then you start doing stuff together. You do press and publicity together. So yes, absolutely getting to. So to be in the category and then not worry about winning, you don't have to worry about a speech, you don't have to worry about anything, was just so freeing to have a blast, because we were the opening number for the Tony Awards. And that was a huge honor. Yeah. To have our segment of I Got Rhythm be selected, and to have this wonderful compilation of songs to be able to present at the opening when the curtain ride. Oh my gosh, it was just so much fun. So the Tonys for me were stress-free and lots of fun. But when you talk to her, just tell her I'm such a huge fan of hers. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that she had the most amazing role on a television series called Drop Dead Diva. And I believe she played Brooke Elliott's mom. The character that the alter ego, she played her mom. She was brilliant in that series. Absolutely brilliant. So anyways, yes, I'm a big fan, and you can tell her I said hi. She doesn't really know me. She probably doesn't remember me from all those years ago. But anyways, I know who she is.
Awesome. I will check out that show, and I'll be sure to talk to her and tell her you said hi too. That'll be awesome.
Yeah. Like I said, she probably won't remember me, but you can tell her that, hey, back in the day, we were, we were cohorts on Broadway at the same time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Brett, I think your question's up.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking when I was reading your book, it's a story of faith, trust, and seashell dust.
Yay.
You may use that if you want to or not, it's entirely up to you. But I'm just like going, it was a little jam on the faith, trust, and pixie dust. So you can.
Yeah.
Welcome to. But now that we have, it is an honor to speak with a real Disney legend. At the same time of this release, D23 Expo will be in full swing. And we have learned who will be the next Disney legends. And what advice would you give these folks about receiving this prestigious award?
Oh my gosh, just savor the moments that you're up on stage receiving it, because it's such a beautiful, amazing, once in a lifetime honor. And it gives you the opportunity to thank everybody. And I did jot down a bunch of names on a little piece of paper, and it was just wonderful to be able to turn and say thank you. And I'm excited because some of my coworkers are finally being recognized. Don Hahn, after being with the company since 1976, I texted him right away. I'm like, this is long overdue, buddy. There were so many people my year that I would have easily given my award to. And one of them is Don Hahn. The other is Chris Montan. Chris Montan is somebody I've worked with for 35 years, and he's finally being recognized. And he is the gentleman who called me about being inducted as a Disney legend. So I'm so thrilled for the two of them. So deserving.
Wow.
And you told us that story, that wonderful story last time we spoke to you, that you actually thought you were being let go from the Disney company. And then here you are being given this amazing honor. You've had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people. And early on in the book, you talk about how you own every piece of music that Barbra Streisand has ever performed. And I just wonder, people are so excited to meet you, and you're so kind to them when you meet them. But are there celebrities out there that you kind of still get excited about when you get a chance to interact with them or want to interact with them?
Well, that's my bucket list. Is I have never met Barbra Streisand.
Mm.
So I ask everybody if you have any way, shape, and form of a connection for me to have 30 seconds of time to say hello, that I'd probably melt. I'd probably fall on the floor, because that is the voice, that is the character that I just looked up to. I love her storytelling within song. I love that every note doesn't have to be perfect, but the acting has to be perfect.
Mm.
And I still study everything about her. And then to get to work with Marvin Hamlish for so many years. And of course, Marvin was her personal private pianist, arranger, songwriter. And I can't believe all those years I worked with Marvin and all the concerts that we've done, that it never happened. That never happened that I got to meet Barbara. Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah, that would be a dream. Her and Celine Dion. I think those would be the two that I would probably have to really get my words centered and gathered without breaking down, crying hysterically.
Mm. And just think about all the people that you're that moment for, like to be able to meet you and to be able to meet this voice that has carried them through so many of the moments in life where they might be struggling. And so that's why it's amazing, the kindness that you exude, the work that you do for Give Kids the World, the work you do for other organizations, that moment that you're talking about doing something small in a hospital bed for a sick child. That's why I think so many people absolutely love the person that you are, because of those moments. So that's not a question at all. I just wanted to throw that out there, that you're great.
That's a very, very sweet thing to say. That's a very sweet thing to say. But I do remind myself, because I do meet thousands upon thousands of people now during convention season, that my 2 or 3 minutes with them, I focus completely on them. I tune everyone else out. I'm fully engaged. I'm fully listening. And I'm not just putting my head down, signing something for them or taking a photo and then going back. I really do want to connect with each and every fan to hear their story. They love to share their story of where they were the first time they saw the movie, what they were wearing, who they were with. I always keep a box of Kleenex on my table, because by the time they wait in line and get to me, I know where they're at. It's a trigger for them. It could be a lost parent. It could be a lost child. It could be a tragic reminder in some ways, trauma, just a variety of things for people. And they always apologize when they cry, and I hand them a tissue and I say, please don't cry. You know, your story is precious, and I appreciate them sharing their story with me. It lets me intimately have the privilege of being a part of their story.
I love parts in your book where you said, I'm going to pause for a moment to let that sink in.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. You know, and it was because it is a great moment to take a pause. So thank you for that direction. But it was a really great way to get your reader to be a part, well, to bring them in. And I'm really looking forward to the audio version, to buying the audio version so I can hear you read that line. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, the audio book, it's so funny. Of course, I've been behind a mic professionally for 35 years, but to narrate these personal stories was hard. It was really hard. And my engineer here in Atlanta, I've worked with him for the last 17 years. And I had to say, John, you know, we've known each other a really long time, but what you're about to hear for the next 5 days for 5 hours a day is going to be different. You're going to get to know who I am. And you may want to be my friend on Friday, or you may not want to be my friend on Friday. But I do hope that, you know, that it'll be okay. Whatever you hear, I hope that you're not offended, or I hope you don't feel hurt. Or so he was so sweet. So the very last day, he's very quiet. The very last day of the audiobook, of course, it's exhausting. You know, you can barely even keep your eyes open. You're just wiped out after sharing things. And of course, I'm sharing them in real time, in real emotion. So I'm really crying, and I'm not crying on a cue. I'm crying because I'm saying things that are really hard for me to say. And so it was emotional. It was a roller coaster. So on Friday at 5 o'clock, when we finished and he was walking me outside of the studio, he said, Jodi, I'm that one person. And I was like, what? He said, remember when you told me the story that you didn't want to write the book, and that if one person picked up the book and one person read one little story and felt encouraged, or maybe wanted to think about things a different way, or maybe wanted to try something and maybe not make the same mistakes that you did. He goes, I just want you to know as you leave today, I'm that one person. And that was just the sweetest thing that he could have said to me leaving work that day. So I feel like the audiobook, I had to make it real and authentic and vulnerable and not perfect. But as a voiceover artist, that was hard for me, because I'd want to do a line over again to make it vocally perfect. But I had a director, well, I had John in the booth, and then I had a director on my headset. And she's like, no, we're not going to do that over again, because you stumbled over that word because of the impact of that word. I don't want it to be vocally perfect in the studio. So that was a little bit of a challenge for me to not make it vocally perfect.
Well, now
But
I even want to hear it even more, so I can't wait for that.
We'll see. I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if I'll listen to it. I don't think I will.
Yeah, well, you lived it, so well, I'm looking forward to it. But you mentioned in your book that you had the opportunity to perform in Dear Evan Hansen, but you decided to turn it down. Now that your kids are beginning their careers, do you think you would be more likely to say yes if offered the opportunity to perform in a musical again, or?
Yeah, that was a lovely call from the casting director and the agent from long ago, back in the day when I was doing Broadway 25, however many years ago it's been now, since Crazy for You, 1994, I think I left the show. And they said, would you please fly up, come up to New York, audition for the national tour? And it was my daughter's senior year of high school. And I said, oh, you're so sweet to even think of this old broad. But no, I'm all in with my daughter for her senior year. She's going to be doing 6 shows, and I help her, and I just want to be here for her. And they were like, yeah. I get asked that question a lot, especially by the New York agency, because they want to submit me for stuff. And I'm like, I just don't know. I mean, 8 shows a week would be a huge commitment, obviously, for me and for my family and for my husband and myself. To leave the lake in North Georgia would be a big thing. 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, I think I'd be a little bit more open to having a New York experience again, for my husband and I to live up there. But for him to live here and me to live in New York with 8 shows a week for a year, I'd have to ask myself why.
Well, you both can be cast.
What would be the purpose? You know what I mean? Like, to add another line on my resume. I'm, for a paycheck, I'd have to ask the reason why. I'd have to find the purpose of that. It would have to be a story that I could connect to, that I feel like I have something to offer. But there's just a million people now that desperately need a job and desperately need their insurance. And there'd have to be a really strong reason why I would answer that question of why. And it would need to be a good reason, not just because I want to do 8 shows a week again. I had such a wonderful season. And honestly, after Crazy for You, it would be so hard to go back, because I would be constantly comparing to that experience. And you can't do that. That's not fair. Because that was such a perfect 4-year period of time from start to finish of a Broadway, creating a starring role on Broadway. Nothing will ever touch that. So there's that little thought in my mind, if I go back, I'm going to be going, oh, it's not like that. And I wouldn't want to do that. That's not fair, to the project. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah. limited run, you know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, speaking of your family, that's something that I really enjoy from the book is the way you talk about them, the way you talk about your kids. It just makes me smile. And I was just wondering if you'd like to take a moment to kind of tell us what they're up to, what they're going to be doing in their careers. I think when the book finishes, they're just about to, they're finishing up college. Like you said, I think one of your kids is in their senior year. So, where are they going to go? What are they doing?
Right. Well, geez, thanks for asking me. I love talking about them anytime. So I'll start with our oldest, McKinley. He is 23 and he just got married June 2nd to his 7-year sweetheart, Mackenzie. Yes, McKinley and Mackenzie. Hence, we call them M&M. So M&M have been together for 7 years. He met her when he was 16. She was 17 at church on a Wednesday night youth group. One girlfriend, first kiss, and his bride. Super sweet. So they got married June 2nd. He graduated during the pandemic a year early from SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design in Atlanta, as a filmmaker. He has his BFA in film and television production. He's been working nonstop in Atlanta since February 2020. He is now the new associate executive producer of Sweet Magnolias on Netflix.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
3, and we're so proud of him. He just started on Monday and he loves it. Of course, he hadn't watched the show, so now he has to watch it because I love the show. But I'm like, you have to know every episode in order to start your job. His beautiful bride, Mackenzie, who we adore, she is my daughter-in-law, not my daughter-in-law. And she is a principal photographer and colorist, fashion photography for Stitch Fix, which is a fashion company.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're based in San Francisco, and they have their warehouse photo studio in Atlanta. They found an apartment when they got married in the middle between their 2 jobs. They are living their best life. Delaney just started her senior year BFA musical theater at CCM Cincinnati, which is my dream school. And she is a senior and just started classes on Monday. She's been working professionally since May of 21. Wow. She has been doing it, so it's super exciting. She just finished doing Gabrielle, the crazy stepsister in Cinderella in Birmingham at a regional theater. So she's getting those paychecks going, starting her savings account. She is doing concerts with me. We did the symphonies together. We're doing cabarets together. She's been on the ship with me doing concerts. We are doing a production of Gypsy together.
Wow.
There's
awesome.
Our limited run. So
I've never done Mama Rose. I'm scared to death. She plays Louise. We're going to do that together in the spring in March in Florida at the Broadway House, the Barbara Mann with the full Gulf Coast Symphony Orchestra for 2 nights. She's taken off the school. Her dean at the, of course, at the school said it's a professional job.
Wow.
Great paycheck for her. And so I'm so excited for her. And this is just an amazing opportunity to get to do this show together. So then she'll go to New York and she'll just go anywhere. She'll audition and go anywhere, whether it's Disney Cruise Line, regional tours, national tour, non-equity tour. She just wants to work. She has a wonderful skill set. She's much, much more talented than her dad and I combined. She really is. And she's a brilliant actress and an unbelievable dancer, having had no dance training her whole life until she went to college. An amazing tap dancer, an incredible vocalist, effortless first soprano, sings Christine in Phantom of the Opera when she wakes up without warming up. She has a high E flat that's ridiculous. She can belt high Fs, waking up and just belt high Fs. That's a natural gifting because she's never had a voice lesson until she went to college. She was a soccer player her whole life. And that's what she was pursuing, was professional soccer. And then all of a sudden one day when she was 14, turning 15, homeschooled high school, I think I want to be in a musical. So that's kind of how it started for her. And then, she goes to audition. She's like, I don't know if any college will take me. I don't know. I'll just start going. First audition, CCM, they call her a week later. You're our girl. You're going to be my first freshman for next year. She's like, Mom, I got into CCM. I don't know. Is that a good school? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. The answer to that is yes.
Yeah. It's incredible. We have a show that's now doing, we call it Original Broadway Cast, and they're doing CCM a lot because he went to school there for broadcasting, and so he's bringing in all these people, and it's just like, it's incredible the talent that comes from that one school and that one connection point that he had. So he's talking to all these old friends from college and everything. It's just incredible.
It's
Incredible.
crazy. CCM, I think, is second or third in the nation for their musical theater program. And she's having the time of her life. And talk about training. Oh my gosh. Every time I see her get back up on stage professionally after she's had another semester of training, I just sit there like, I can't believe this. I mean, what in the heck? This is crazy. This is crazy good training at her school. So, and of course, I stay in the background. Nobody knows. So when she auditioned by herself, and detached my name from it completely. Did not want to get into anything with any connection to me at all, which was great. And so they did not find out. It wasn't until after she was accepted and we were on the campus moving her in that one of the seniors, I didn't have my baseball cap and my braids because I was always kind of like hanging out in the back, far, far away from her, that put it together. Oh. And that was a hard day for Delaney because she felt like a target was on her back a little bit with the students. Understandably so. I mean, the kids were lovely to her, but there was always that underlying, and she's like, Mom, they don't understand. I just started doing this a couple of years ago and I've had no professional training. They all think I've been doing this my whole life, but I've been a soccer player. Whereas most of these kids have been training since they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I've got so much to catch up to. And so she had to sit down with her professors and say, I need the target off my back. I'm not my mom. I just started training here with you. And so you've got to think of me as a new kid on the block. You can't think of me as raised in a musical theater, you know, where I've been doing shows with my mom since I was 3 years old, on stage with my mom my whole life. And then they kind of go, oh my gosh, you're right. We are projecting something onto you because of your parents. And that's not fair on our part. So her freshman year was really rough. And then she was able to advocate and communicate to people going, you can't have this level of this bar. Well, it's interesting. She has far surpassed the talent of both my husband and I on her own in the last 3 years. And she's standing in her own shoes now. She's standing on her own. And it's a beautiful thing when your kids are doing what they love to do and they've done it all on their own. Same with McKinley. So he's already done 3 Disney Plus Hulu shows and they don't know who he is.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And like a freakish, after 9 months on Tell Me Lies, his boss came up to him one day and he goes, wait a minute. Is your mom Jodi Benson, the Little Mermaid? And he looked around to make sure nobody heard, no, yes, sir. That's freaking awesome.
That's so great. Amazing.
Same way, like, don't come to, hide at school, don't come. He thought about taking his middle name as his last name, his first semester at SCAD, but he got all that on his own and nobody found out until the end of his freshman year, where he had already established himself, had already done. And then the Disney Plus Hulu shows that he's gotten, none of them knew. And some of them still don't know, which is awesome.
Yes,
I mean, that was really important. So I've got these 2 kids that do not want any help. And I'm like, you got to get the job. I mean, I'm happy to open a door, but you got to get the job. But they don't even want me to open the door. I'm like, okay, that's good. No worries.
Well, it's incredible that our time with you is brief today. So we know it's coming to an end and we're just so grateful for your time. I do want to ask the briefest of questions, and then we've got one more wrap up. But very quickly, we heard a little birdie has told us that you are quite the roller coaster junkie when you're in the parks. I just need to know, like, your couple seconds review of Cosmic Rewind now that you've got the chance to try it.
So Everest Expedition has been my favorite ride for 10 years. And I ride it anywhere from 10 to 14 times while I'm there. So nobody can talk me out of Everest Expedition. So Jeff Vail, the president at Walt Disney World, I went for the opening of Cosmic Rewind. He goes, we are writing this and we're walking off. And I'm going to tell you right now, Jodi, it's going to move Everest off your list. And I'm like, no, never, never, never. So I do Cosmic Rewind. I walk off and he finds me. And Jeff is like, so I said, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to put it equal to Everest Expedition, but not above, because Everest Expedition is indoor, outdoor. It still has the drop of a lifetime. It still has the backwards craziness that Cosmic Rewind doesn't have. But I love Cosmic Rewind because you are flying. You're not on a roller coaster. You are flying in a saucer, and you never, ever feel that you are connected to any type of track. You literally are flying, and it is the most amazing feeling. So did that 5 times in a row, and I was a happy camper. So
that's amazing. It's that stomach feeling that you get in Everest, though, that you just can't replicate anywhere else for sure. Well, thank you again so much for your time. And I have to say, I'm just going to throw out a recommendation to you. If you have not seen Ted Lasso yet, you need to go and check it out because it's all about kindness. So you need to go and check that. Oh, good. Excellent. I would promote for you. I would promote for you that I have a podcast called Peanut Butter and Biscuits all about Ted Lasso, but that would be very shameless of me to do. So I wouldn't do that. But anyway, though, the last thing, and this actually, we didn't get a chance to ask you this the last time we interviewed you because we hadn't started asking this final question. But our final question is just, you do hundreds of these types of interviews, and we're wondering if there's a message or a story that you'd like to end on that you're never asked about, that you just want to talk about, or something that you'd like to end with our audience on.
You know, I think one of the things that I like to just leave people with is to it's really simple. It's that God can do extraordinary things through ordinary people. And that was spoken into me when I was a homeschool mom and I was desperate because I was failing miserably. That God can do these extraordinary things through very, very ordinary people who are willing to get outside of the box and take a chance, willing to do something that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I like to do things that are comfortable. I'm in my wheelhouse. This is my comfort zone. So doing this book was way out of my comfort zone, very uncomfortable, way out of my wheelhouse. And so I just, that's just something I think I like to leave with folks.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your talent, and now sharing that with your book, Part of My World, which is going to be available here in September. It's just wonderful to get another chance to talk to you, Jodi. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you all so much for having me again. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was just so great to get to talk to her again. I mean, like, she exudes it's that kindness and that spirit that she has. But also, Vanessa, I know you in particular, when we were talking about this book, Part of My World, one of the things you really wanted to talk to her about was the vulnerability and the struggles that she's also had. She mentioned to us, she doesn't wake up necessarily a positive person. It's almost a choice that she makes to continue to be positive. But talk to me about your reaction to this interview.
Yeah, you know, it's really fun because I think a lot of people think of her as a Disney princess, and the positiveness, the positivity, the kindness, that certainly kind of complements that idea that she's very princess-like. But unlike a Disney princess, the cockroach actually bit her in the face. And Enchanted, those cockroaches were nice and helped clean that apartment. And they were not helping her clean that apartment. They were chowing down on Jodi Benson's face, which is not good. But it's very real. It's a real experience that we all have. We all have struggles. And even those people that we look up to, even those celebrities, they have the struggles, but they find ways of dealing with those issues. And I love that she took what she has learned. And I know she says she's a conduit, and that is true, but she also has these wonderful moments that she has experienced, and she's taken a lesson away from those moments and shared that with us. And I'm telling you, a lot of the things she wrote in her book just really hit home with me. And I absolutely mean this when I say I have lots of little hearts. Or sometimes I'll write, love this in the book. And I really encourage any of you who just want to pick up a good, feel good book and get to learn about some of those things that Brett loves, Broadway, Disney, all those things that he mentioned, get to learn about that too, but also just leave ending the book feeling really, really good.
and getting to know her a bit more as a person. The three of us all were privileged to get a copy of this book and be able to read it. And she mentioned at the beginning of the interview, it's not a Christian book. Clearly, the faith has guided her life. But I like that, Brett, you kind of positioned it more as a conversation piece. And I would say that anybody that's a Disney fan, clearly, this is a book for you. There's a lot of behind the scenes there that you can get. But also, if you are someone that's thinking about going into acting, if you're someone that just likes Broadway history, honestly, if you're someone that just enjoys that conversational type of sense of getting to know someone and seeing their struggles and their tribulations as well as their triumphs, this is a book for you as well. I could argue that just about everybody out there needs to read Part of My World. But Brett, what were your reactions not only to the interview but also to the book?
I loved it because I mean, it's as I said in the interview that I mean, it's everything I'd want. It's hometown stories and stories of Broadway and Disney, and it's all combined in a wonderful story that is true, and it's her story, and she shares it so wonderfully. It was interesting, Craig, that you said that that positivity is a choice. I totally believe that. I am a pragmatic optimist because I see the effects of being positive. And so, and when she said she's not always positive and she doesn't wake up like that, I'm like going, none of us do, but the idea of being a positive person towards other people and towards ourselves, I think is something that resonates in the book. And it's something that, that I try to put in my life too. So it was good to kind of get that reinforcement. Yeah, you're doing okay. It's worked for me, so I like that very much.
Absolutely. Well, again, the book is available starting September 13th. So I believe if I'm looking forward to our release schedule, we will be releasing this right about the time that we're getting lots of information out from D23. So it's wonderful that it can be a companion piece. When you're off of that D23 high, you can go and pick up your book at an independent bookstore, but also available online as well. So September 13th, Part of My World by Jodi Benson. If this is your first Beyond the Mouse because you have listened to Jodi, you absolutely love Jodi. We do too. Go back and listen to our first interview with her. It happened in 2020. I don't know the exact date. And I know these
August.
two, it was in August of 2020. Wow. So just about 2 years ago. And that is wonderful. And so go check that out. You can also find our other interviews. She mentioned Disney legend now, Don Hahn. We had the pleasure of speaking to him earlier this year. And so it's great to be able to get some of those conversations. You can also listen to us just chatting Disney and all things Disney. We're also going to have quite a bit of D23 coverage as well. Whatever announcements we are in the midst of hearing this weekend, we will definitely cover that for you as well. So go and check that out by looking up Beyond the Mouse on any podcast feed. You can also follow us on social media. We're Beyond the Mouse Pod on Instagram, Beyond Mouse on Twitter, and then also on Facebook. Beyond the Mouse Podcast is our page. And we also have a group, which I really encourage you to join, which is Beyond the Mouse Podcast Pals, where you can chat with us in that group about all things Disney. You're probably seeing a lot of different posts right now about D23 for sure. Any final thoughts as we begin to wrap this up? Brett, I will go to you first.
Well, I said the audiobook. I cannot wait to hear her tell her story. And, when she mentioned that it was, a hard thing to do, I'm like going, well, it's a wonderful story. And I can't wait to hear her words and her voice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Vanessa, any final thoughts?
Well, I cannot wait to hear Delaney sing, her daughter. I love the way she talks about her kids. I'm so excited for them. And it sounds like Delaney's just like a superstar. And I cannot wait to hear her perform someday. I'm seriously, when she said that they were performing in Florida, I thought, oh, I wonder if can I fly down there? Do I have time? Can we go see
I know,
this?
I was
That sounds
gonna check.
amazing.
I imagine that it's already sold out, right? If she's only doing it for 2 nights, but it might be worth at least a little bit of a check to see if Gypsy is an option.
Yeah.
Or a research trip for Beyond the Mouse for sure. It was just so great. If Jodi or her publicist that helped us arrange this are listening back, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this wonderful book that we can all turn to now and be able to, like we're having a conversation with Jodi Benson. The conversation continues from this moment in this podcast and this interview. It's just so great to get to talk to her today. So it's also great to get to talk to you. Make sure to follow us on social. Make sure to do all the things that podcasts ask you to do. But for Beyond the Mouse, I am Craig.
I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Brett.
And we will see you real soon in the front row. maybe at a book signing or something else for
Ooh,
Jodi
book
Benson.
signing.
That'd be
I
great.
don't know. I want to be in the front row, Gypsy.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be good.
Everything's
That would be a
coming
pricey
up,
ticket. I'm just gonna throw out there that's probably a pricey ticket. So,